Okay. So now we're recording. Thank you for letting me stop and start that again. Someone had asked that. It will not be posted as far as I know on our website. But is there any problem if we wind up posting it? Speak now.
I don't have a problem.
Okay, you don't have to tell me if you don't have, thank you for telling me that, but if, as long as, and Clara, I'm glad to see that you're here, thank you. But if anyone does, please send me a chat or let me know and I'll take note. But so anyway, back to the transition plan, thank you. Even though we're only asking for check marks and boxes and dates and some names, I recognize and staff recognizes that that does not mean that we don't understand that there's a ton of work that's going on behind the scenes to get to a decision about whose names are inserted and what check marks are put on the form. So although this is less narrative writing, we recognize that it's still quite a lot of work, and that the work is where we'd rather have you spend your time. We'd rather have you spend your time talking with colleagues, developing materials, revising syllabi, whatever it takes so that you can get to where you need to be by September 2017. So having said that, I'm gonna start with number one. And again, remind you to interrupt me if you have a question. I have muted all of you. However, you can unmute yourselves. And again, a reminder, there's a little microphone icon at the bottom of your screen. If you click on it, it will unmute you. It's just that there's background noise often, and so that's why I've muted all of you. It's a new tool in Zoom. It gives you quite a lot of power. Anyway, the number one is really tied back to the common standards. The common standards now require collaboration. And they did before, but I think it's gotten much stronger at this point. And so the requirement with collaboration starts here. And so when we're asking you to develop a transition team, we're asking you to include stakeholders beyond your institution. Now, that's not to say that they have to be involved in every part of the process. There may be things that are best tackled with faculty internally, or even with business people, or any subset of this transition team might be best suited to do part of the work. Now, in terms of standard 3, which is tied to fieldwork, probably want to bring in those stakeholders for that. So employers, site administrators, even some maybe veteran mentors, whoever at your institution it makes the most sense in regard to preliminary general ed. So multiple single subject preliminary teaching credential program. Some of you have more than one pathway at your institution. You might have an internship, or you might have a pathway that's entirely online. So as you're looking at this transition plan document, if you can answer the questions cleanly, exactly the same for all of your pathways, then just turn in one. If you can't, either kind of, when we get to the, you might have to turn in like a second part or something, or turn in 2 separate documents if that makes more sense. The same is true for multiple and single subject. A lot of your programs really are really closely aligned, and then they just sort of separate for some methodology courses, and you might be able to answer all the questions as one. If not, turn in 2 separate programs. So there is one issue with this document that we had not identified originally until 175 induction documents came in, and that is we did not ask you what institution you're from anywhere on this document. So if you would find a way of telling us, that will save us a lot of detective work. There is a transmittal form, And the transmittal form has that information on it, but some of you aren't in the past. The 175 induction programs weren't that good about turning those in. So if you could put it in two places, if you stick a footer on here, that'd be great. This is a Word document or a header, whatever you want to do. We want to make sure we have. And we were 100% successful in lining up the documents with the institutions before, but it took some extra time. So if you can help us out, that'd be great. So you're going to put down the transition team member and then what their title and role is. Not their title and role inside your transition team, but you know, are they the dean? Is it the associate dean? Is it single subject faculty? Is it a school site principal? That kind of title and role. So number 2 is really about the timeline. And the timeline is not prescribed so much by us except for kind of the start and the finish. So we know the start was back in December when you got this. So that doesn't mean that you'll have any benchmarks established for way back then, but that's when the commission adopted it. It's due to us the end of March 2017. So the last day of March, which I think is the 31st, I never get those right, but that's due to us, this document. And as I said before, we're not going to provide feedback. We will be able to see that you are doing what you say you are doing, and that will put you in good stead to be ready for the other, I'm going to try and make this be on both screens. The other deadline, which it won't fit, is September 1st, 2017. And I'm going to talk more about that date because I know that at some institutions, it's a real date for us. You must be on the new standards, but you might not have students starting because maybe you're on a quarter system and you start later. So I'll come back to that. We also put some other benchmarks which may or may not serve you. That is for you to determine. They were, to our best of our knowledge, we thought it would help you kind of move forward. And they're also not necessarily in the order that makes sense to you. So you can rearrange those as you see fit, and you'll see blank lines in which you can add or delete whatever you need. So we expect that you'll have a meeting with your transition team, and if you'd give us the date, we'd appreciate that. And then really in our advice to you in tackling really the whole transition is to develop a course matrix. And we've actually done that for you, and it should be posted this week. And what that course matrix does is we've taken all 47 elements of the teaching performance expectations, as well as part 2, which is developmentally appropriate pedagogy, English learners, and content-specific pedagogy. And we've taken all of those and they go down the side of the matrix. Across the top, we've given you space to put in your course title and course number. And where the grids intersect, we're asking that you put an I for introduced, a P for practiced, an A for assessed. And we're not asking you to submit those at this time. You'll submit them in year 5 of the accreditation cycle, which is during your program review. And we have lots of technical assistance about program review as well. During program review, those letters, introduced, practiced, assessed, will be linked out to syllabi and to assessment instruments, and there's directions for that already posted on the website. I'll show you where those are as well, and where the matrix will be posted. The TPEs weren't adopted until June, and developing the course matrix has taken some time. So that should be up this week, and we encourage you to use that. I will tell you that 2 things, and lots of you have done curriculum mapping already at your institution, so this isn't a new exercise for you. But the act of discussing with faculty and putting I for introduced, P for practiced, A for assessed, what will become clear to you, and there could be cells in which you have both introduced and practiced, or practiced and assessed. It could, a teaching performance expectation could be introduced and practiced in one course and assessed in fieldwork, and as one of your courses. You could have practice all over the map for one TPE because we know that you scaffold your curriculum. So however that unfolds for your institution is fine. But what could become a real aha for you in this process is that you could find holes in your curriculum, places where your current courses, there's no place where those TPEs are introduced, practiced, or assessed. And that gives you the opportunity to say, hey, we're going to need to make some major revisions to a course, or maybe a minor revision where you add in something. So that will really help you. At the point at which all of those cells have some letters in them, that will tell your institution that your coursework is addressing all of the teaching performance expectations. And if you're doing that, in most likelihood, you're going to be aligned with standard 2. So spending time on that course matrix is well worth your time. The reason why we're encouraging you to use the one that we're developing is because that will be the one that will be due during year 5. Even if year 5 is way off for you, you then won't have to reinvent it. It'll already exist, and you can just be updating it over the course of the year. So we're trying to save you work. We're trying to have things be more streamlined. So that's part of this effort. What may result, back to this, what may result here in terms of after you do that course matrix, you may find that you have to revise syllabi. Maybe it'll be extensive and maybe it'll be minor, excuse me. Sign that I'm talking too much. So what else may come in terms of timeline is revision of fieldwork, handbook materials. Standard 3 has gotten, in some regards, more prescriptive. Commissioners felt that they wanted to really spell some things out, and they have in Standard 3. And that may warrant you revising. And when we say handbook materials, that could be web-based. It doesn't mean that it's a handbook that got passed out like in my day before computers were invented. So, and then it may result in a need to orient faculty and mentors to the revised program. And then Standard 5 is sort of on hold, and I'm going to talk more about that. But, you know, when that might happen, that date may well be after September 1st, 2017. You will, the TPA is not on the Commission's agenda until November of this year, and we don't expect that, we expect some people will pilot it this year, but field testing is the following year. And there's lots of information about that on a webcast I'm going to point you to.
Catherine, this is Cindy. I have a quick question.
Sure.
I just want to clarify what you said about the matrix not being submitted as part of the transition plan. Am I understanding that right?
You are.
So just this document that we're looking at, it gets submitted as the transition plan.
Yes.
Okay.
We know that we're not asking for very much in the way of documentation, but we know that you're doing a lot of work. So, yep. We try to keep it simple.
I know you said you're going to come back to the aligned by. So I have a question about that. Is this a good time, or are you going to talk about it?
If you give me just a minute, I'm going to talk about it. Let's see if it helps. And then, so the first cohort to begin your revised program. Your revised program has to be aligned by September 1st, 2017. However, a couple of things could intervene on when you are actually implementing that with students. So first of all, we still have statute in place that allows students in a program to have up to 24 months to finish the program. Now, we know in the past, sometimes you've accomplished that transition by granting equivalencies in the new program, in the old program for coursework in the new program. That's up to you, however you all decide to do that. But we know that you'll be finishing out current students. But you can't take any new students into your old program after August 30th, 2017. So the last day of August, you can't take any more students into your old program. So that's what we mean by aligned. Now, you could be at a campus that has all of your new cohorts start in January. So then your real time that you would have a first cohort would be January of 2018, although I only know of one program who does that. But hey, I don't know every program, so I could be surprised. A lot of you have dates that start, you're on a kind of a rotating enrollment, or you have quarter systems that start in October. We know a couple of campuses are transitioning from the quarter system to the semester system, and we already are working individually with those campuses to make this work. So you guys I think there's 2 of you, and you're falling into a separate category, and I know you've been in touch with Terry and Cheryl, and I've been kept up to speed, but I don't want to get into that level of detail with this particular Zoom. So we may need to have another meeting just for those campuses. Did you get at what your question was, Cindy?
Yes and no. So thank you for the clarification. So 2 things for us at Cal State Long Beach, and maybe at other campuses also. We'll have all of our fall students admitted long before August 31st. In fact, our semester probably starts, the 3rd week of August. So that's interesting.
Right.
And
so
then,
you're going to have to make a decision is, do you want to go ahead and start them in the new program, or they can go in the old program? It just means that you'd wind up, kind of running 2 programs probably at some point. So that's really your call.
Yeah. And okay,
luckily you have really good familiarity with these standards.
Yeah, true.
Cindy was on the task group that helped the commission, think through this. So I may rely on her for questions today.
Yeah, and I do remember sticking up my hand and asking this question before, which is, our university curriculum cycle has a November 1 due date. And so, there's no way we're going to get all of our syllabi revised by this November 1. So we're likely to be operating the 17-18 year under a lot of pilot stuff.
So this year is 16-17. That's why we created a transition year.
Yeah.
So that, and let me tell you, that was a hard battle won, because normally they ask us to launch while we're still running. So we tried to relieve you of accreditation activities so that you can do this. So
and I think we're going to be writing our new curriculum this year, submitting it to our campus curriculum committee November 1, 2017, and it'll go into effect officially approved November, fall 18. So that means the 17-18 year, even though we have the work done on our campus, it won't probably be all formally approved. So that's what I mean by operating under a pilot status a little bit during that year. So I don't know if campuses are dealing with that, but that's just the way our curriculum cycle runs.
So our hope was that in releasing this back in December, that you would have begun to work on those syllabi so that you could then submit this November.
The TPEs weren't approved until, January. We waited, we did some preliminary thinking, and we've been working on our clinical stuff in particular, but it's really the TPEs that drive the syllabi and the curriculum. So I think, I don't know if other campuses are going to run into that. I think, we have ways on our campus of admitting people to a program and having them in classes that are pilot classes. And
okay.
So anyway, I just wanted to alert you to that, because that's just our reality over here.
Well, I'm glad you can run it as a pilot. And really, you tweak all the programs all the time. The issue is, if you don't start in September 1st, you're going to run into some real problems with the teaching performance assessment. So it's really important that you all start on that September 1st. I mean, that's our date, but that fall 2017, it will evolve into very high stakes for your candidates if you don't.
Yeah, I think the intent is for the candidates to all be in courses that are aligned to the new the new TPEs, of course. It's just that the logistics of it on the campuses where the curriculum cycle doesn't match the CTC's cycle.
So if you have a way of piloting, if for us, in the long run, your governance structure matters to us, but in terms of having students in courses that align with the new standards, you're still doing it. So that's fine with us, even though you're lagging in terms of approval and that you may have to adjust some course syllabi once it goes before academic senate or whatever your governing body is.
Good, that's great. If you'll, and we'll do everything we can to just make sure it's very transparent and clear. You know, I think we'll have to do that on our campus anyway. So thank you, Catherine.
Okay, thanks. I see a question here also about intern pre-service conditions. So I'm going to jump ahead and talk about that for a second. So preconditions have not been revised. Multiple single subject preconditions are in place, and they will continue to be in place, both for intern and traditional pathways. So that does not change. I will say that Standard 3, it is in its prescriptiveness, we believe, going to take some additional technical assistance for intern programs. And what we've done is we've scheduled, well, back up, we've scheduled 6 technical assistance regional meetings. You only have to go to 1. We posted those on the PSD e-news. I noticed that about 30 people have signed up already. Thank you. If you're bringing a team of 4 people, each of the 4 people needs to register. You can't just register 1 and then bring 4. We'll be short of materials if you do that. So, and you know, making sure we have the right size space. So what that technical assistance asks you to do is to watch 2 webcasts. One of them has already been posted, and before this ends, I will show you where it is. That's the TPE webcast. The multiple single subject webcast will be posted on or about September 19th. 7 people who've registered already have said they've watched that webcast, but we know they haven't because it hasn't gone up. I think they're thinking of this meeting. And so this is not the webcast for multiple single subject. Anyway, so those regional, once you watch those 2 webcasts, and you can register without watching them, but then when we have the regional meetings, it'll really be about diving deep into the standards, working with colleagues. We hope maybe you'll be able to even walk out with some product, you know, not done, but you can't finish in a day, but at least some discussion started. So we're encouraging you to bring a team of 2 to 4 people to those meetings. So those are 6 regional meetings scheduled for the last week in September, first week in October. In addition to that, we have scheduled 3 regional meetings spread throughout the state, 2 in the South and 1 in the Bay Area, kind of looked at the map of where intern programs are and tried to put them where it would be geographically convenient for people to get to. We know in the Central Valley, we've kind of left you hanging once again. Sorry. Hopefully you'll be able to go over to the Bay Area or go to the northern part of Los Angeles. So those 3 meetings are for intern programs, multiple single subject intern programs, and they're going to be exclusively for the purpose of diving into the Fieldwork standard as it applies to intern programs. So that was a very long answer to San Bernardino's question, but I hope I hit on it more. And I'm going to get to Standard 5 in just a minute. So bear with me. I have a lot more to do, and I promise that I will not leave anybody hanging without your questions answered. So anyway, that's the timeline. Item 3 on here is really the meat of this document. And this is where we know we're only asking for check marks or X's, but that they represent quite a lot of work internally. We wanted to describe for you kind of a definition of major, minor, and no revisions so that we were all on the same kind of place talking-wise. You all know what major is at your own campus, though, and you know what minor is at your own campus, and you know what no is at every campus. So interpret this as you will. But we see major revisions really as significant changes that might even require restructuring your program, revising or developing, extensively revising or developing new syllabi and procedures and processes. Also, this could be a situation in which you need governing board approval, academic senate, or whatever your governing board is at your institution. Minor, we see more as a more limited, it still could include some restructuring, but we see it as more limited restructuring, and then, really editing language and adjusting materials and processes rather than a complete overhaul. We see also that, and this, I know that retraining it's not meant in an offensive way. So, but rather than retraining faculty to a whole new process and procedure, a minor revision are some that take more conversation, more information about, rather than like, let's get everybody together and relearn something. And then you might not need any revisions. We believe that some of these you are already doing, that they were in the old standards, they're in the new standards, you are already doing these things, and you should put that X in the box that says not need any revisions. You can either leave the anticipated date blank if you don't need revisions, or you can just put in today's date, whatever, we'll figure it out on our end. That part's easy for us. Major and minor revisions are about, when do you think you're going to get it done? When do you think you're going to get that little piece of this standard done? And it could be a whole lot of September 1st, 2017, but we think in some things you might be able to get them done this summer, or even, by this summer, I mean next summer, sorry, or sometime during the course of the 16-17 school year. So that's for you to determine. And really, this whole document, that's what this is. A lot of institutions have told me that they skip Standard 1 and do that last. That really, they need to look at Standard 2 and Standard 3 first, and then they can go back and talk about design. That they really need these two standards done first. So that's your call. We're not going to know what order you do things in or how you talk about this, but you guys are the 5th or 6th Zoom, so I'm sharing with you what some other people have shared with us. So Standard 2, I want to spend some time on this, and like I said, I'm not going to really delve deep into this, but I think this part needs some explanation. You see there only 4 rows. 4 rows isn't very much for what is probably the meat on the bones of your program. So when you see the first element, say the program's organized coursework and clinical practice provide multiple opportunities for candidates to learn, apply, and reflect on each teaching performance expectation. We are talking about all 47 of those elements and all of the content that's in Part 2. So if you've done the work in the course matrix, you're going to know if you need major revisions or minor revisions. We're never going to know if you don't do that course matrix. If that's not the way your institution operates, please do this the way that makes sense for you. But we think that's a really solid way to go after this. But we're really talking about what's going to be involved for you to hit on all of those teaching performance expectations within your curriculum, both introducing and practicing as well as assessing. So that check mark here in this major revision box or minor revision box or no revision box represents all of that. And that is true for all of these, this standard. So take some time with this one, and it'll be worth it. Standard 3 is by far the longest standard. And again, you're going through each one of these. Again, I'm not going to get into these, but I want to call out the 600 hours because it has caused the most questions. So the 600 hours is across the arc of the program. And so we know in the beginning that kind of activity could include, more observation and less teaching. But the 600 hours is direct student contact. That's not direct instruction. That's not what I said. I said direct contact. So it is not, I spent 20 hours planning for my 1 hour reading activity. It doesn't get to count as 21 hours. But we're not saying you have to deduct 15 minutes while they were at recess. So, that's it. There's going to be a lot more time spent on this in the webcast as well as in the regional meeting. So we'll get a lot deeper into this, but there's been a lot of questions around this. So I thought I'd go ahead and at least do that.
Catherine, it's a quick question from Cindy again.
Mm-hmm.
A question that's come up in some conversations is whether the early field work counts in this as part of the arc of the program. So early field work that might be in prerequisite courses, for example, can that be counted in the arc of the program?
I think it depends on how you define your program. And I think that you're in the best position to answer that. What you need to keep in mind is that, would it make sense in year 6 to a team? Will it make sense, are you getting that? And really, I will tell you that staff is grappling with more helpful guidance on this whole standard. So we are working on that. So bear with us just for a little while longer, but I would say yes. I mean, I can confidently say yes. Okay, as long as you can define your program as including that portion.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so I want to move on down here to Standard 5. So here's Standard 4, has some boxes to check, some dates to put in, just like 1, 2, and 3. And then Standard 5 does not. Standard 5 is in the appendix, so it follows this document, and you don't have to meet Standard 5 right now because the TPAs have not been implemented. You are actually going to continue to use Standard 17 through 18 until you are participating with the TPA. So the TPA in 17-18 is actually going to be field tested, and we're hoping everyone participates in the field test. But some details of that are still being worked out. So Amy and Rising will have more information about that as will we. And we will be having more technical assistance, events, Zoom meetings, webcasts as the TPA rolls out. Bear with me while I scroll. So down here on number 4, and you'll notice 300 words is not very many words, and we really want you to be less than 300 words if possible, but not more. 300, we're cutting you off. We're only going to read to the 300th word. And we're doing that because we know it's not fully cooked, but we want you to look at Standard 5, which is in the appendix. We want you to read Standard 5, talk with your transition team, and just briefly talk about, what you might anticipate needing in the way of changes. So very, very, very brief.
Catherine,
Yep.
I have a question.
Yes, Justin.
Could you talk, I know this is the last presentation, so can you talk about if a discussion has come up around this in regards to programs that has transitions to EdTPA?
Sure, that has come up, and EdTPA will be revised also to meet these standards. So you'll still want to look at Standard 5. All of the teaching performance all of the teaching performance assessment will have to be realigned to the new teaching performance expectations, and will have to meet Standard 5. So it will still affect institutions that are using EdTPA. Did I answer your question, or did I dance around it?
No, you answered it.
Okay, thanks. So we are hoping, though, that there is wide scale participation in the field review, because your programs are going to be aligned, and we're trying to figure out how to lower the stakes for candidates and still not have them do double testing and things like that. So more to come on that. So I'm going to pause here and see if you have any questions. I kind of ran through this relatively quickly. Hearing none, I'm going to go out of screen share here so I can show you another screen here in a second. See everyone's faces again. All right. Let me just pull this up. So I'm going to take you out to our website and show you where some things live, because we have some new things on the website.
Catherine, I have a question. This is Brent. Could you speak to the 4 weeks of solo or co-teaching or its equivalent? Can you clarify that at all?
Can you ask a more specific question about what you are trying to find out, and I'll try to help? So,
for example, in our program, we've had students do roughly 3 weeks of solo teaching. And when we say solo teaching, I mean like the master teacher actually would leave the room and the student teacher would be completely responsible for all the lesson planning and all of that. But then they're also in fieldwork the entire year, fall and spring semester, in some capacity, whether it's observing or, you know, small group work or in some sense co-teaching. But I guess we're just wondering if we can sort of rewrite what we're already doing in a way that clarifies that their extended time there meets like either co-teaching or equivalent, or if we really do need to redefine everything we're doing.
It sounds like you're going to have to really talk about how you might meet that. It sounds like if you have the co-teaching and the solo teaching that you may, with minor adjustments, be able to meet that. I know that we are will delve more deeply into this. We're really trying to work through all of those pretty prescriptive clinical practice, and there could be times when you look at your program and say, you know what, we no longer meet the standard, we're going to have to increase something. I'm not sure that's the case in your case, because it sounds like you may be meeting that, but I would definitely take a good close look at that.
And have you heard if it has to be like 4 weeks altogether, or
no,
can it be spread out? And does it have to be entire days, or could it be like half days? Have you heard of that at all? The time frame is not defined there, and so I think that it will fall on the program to show us that you are meeting the standard. Okay, thank you.
In total, and remember, you're not just meeting a sentence of the standard. So when you take when the reviewers take the whole standard together, that's what they're taking. Cindy, you were involved in those conversations. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I think you are getting at the spirit of the TPE. I think the idea was just to make sure there's some shared baseline for how much clinical experience is happening for candidates across the state, because it was really so varied, and there were programs that actually had a lot less than 600 hours and programs that have a lot more. And then I think, to Bryn's question, the idea of the solo or co-teaching, I know we put the word co-teaching in there to keep it flexible that way too, because that's a model that a lot of institutions are trying, and it's a really valuable way for a candidate to do some pretty serious teaching. So I think it's almost the same as what you were saying earlier, Catherine, about how you define your program, and make the case. I would say make the case for the way that you want to do these 4 weeks. I agree.
Thanks, Cindy. It's always nice to kind of have a little background on what the discussion was and when these were being developed. I think it helps us, frame what we're doing. Let me just jump over to screen share for a second and show you where some important stuff is. So, you should be seeing a website. Is that correct? People are shaking their heads. Okay, good. So that means I'm on 3 screens, so my head is spinning here. Okay, so on this web page, I'm on the Program Sponsors tab, and we've added a new tab, and it's Accreditation Technical Assistance. So when I click on that tab, there's 3 big headers. There could wind up being more. So the first one are webcasts, and we put the date as well as the audience. So you'll see over here where it says all. There's an overview now posted of the new accreditation system. We also, during the midst of all this, have rolled out an entirely new broadcasting system. You will definitely see a technical issue in this. Just bear with us. We just keep on going. It's just going to be a stupid screen for 40 seconds. We thought it was more important to go ahead and post it than to not post it. The Common Standards webcast is now posted, so that'll have a lot of good information. Sorry, I keep highlighting, my mouse keeps moving. That's there, and the presentation is actually the posting of the PowerPoint, where it has day 1, that's the live broadcast. Or it's not live, it's the taped broadcast. This is the teaching performance expectations. This is the broadcast that if you're a CSU dean, you probably already were involved in that conversation. It was taped live with some CSU deans. That is one of the webcasts that we're asking you to watch prior to attending the regional technical assistance. The multiple and single subject webcast will go up mid-September. The other thing we have on this page are upcoming events. And so they're both listed as well as a registration is put there too. So you'll see registration is hyperlinked, and you'll choose one of these 6. Again, if you're bringing more than yourself, each person needs to register separately. The green cohort, I don't know if anyone's in the green cohort, but we have some specific technical assistance for you also. And that is specific to the Common Standards. The green cohort, we think that Kermit's song, "It's Good to Be Green," is going to be the new theme for you all. Or "It's Not Easy Being Green." But you've already done program assessment under the old system. Your site visit's going to be during the new system. So we think you need some extra TLC. Your Common Standards responses are going to be due in the spring of this year. So on September 13th in the north and September 14th in the south, you pick which one works for you. You're going to go to one of those meetings, and we're going to work with just the green cohort. And especially big shout out to Brandman, who, because you had a really good location and nice space, you agreed to host it even though you're not green and even though you won't be attending the meeting. So thank you. We know lots of institutions have already stepped up to host meetings, and we're trying to spread them out. So we'll probably be in contact with you. We have 78 technical assistance events already scheduled, not all with locations. So we're really trying to hit everything in a way that makes sense. And we have a commission agenda meeting at the September 8th commission meeting if you want to see all the details. But we're really going to post them here on this website as we go. And we're trying to post them well in advance. We know that you're probably feeling like this thing needs to go first instead of this thing. We feel like everything needs to go first, and we're doing our best to pay attention to timelines and give you ample notice of when things are coming up. So you'll see the intern meetings go up here this week, as well as some induction things and other events as quickly as we can. And then the other thing we're posting here on this website are resources. So right now we have 1507, the program sponsor alert that we just talked about, posted here, as well as 1608, which talks about the new TPEs, excuse me. So hopefully this new web page will really help you get to where you need to be. For those of you that are wondering, where you are in the accreditation cycle, the accreditation the link right here, still under program sponsor, accreditation. If you come over here to the far right, you'll see that there's an accreditation schedule and activities webpage. It shows your cohort, what's due, and there's a key at the bottom of what those letters stand for. Shows you what's due. It'll print it out in a friendly way, and then if I was talking about green, so I'll go to green. If I click on their map, it'll download a PDF, and the PDF will probably, you can't see because it showed up on a different screen. The PDF will give you just what's happening for green. So this is not letting me close. Oops, sorry. Okay, trying this again. Okay, so let me get out of screen share. Back to you guys. All right, any questions? I know that there's a lot of information that I kind of went rather quickly. All right, I'm just gonna take a few minutes to find out if, did Dominguez, I think I heard Dominguez Hills say that they were here. So thank you for that. And how about Cal Baptist? Did you make it into the meeting?
We in Dominguez Hills have a question.
Oh, good. I didn't see the question. Sorry.
It's on the right. Should the pack will change too, right?
Everything's going to change. Yes. So that's all going on right now. Was that wasn't Cal Baptist, was it?
No, that was Dominguez.
Okay. Is Cal Baptist here? I'm going to unmute all of you so I can hear. You don't have to worry about it. Okay. Cal Baptist?
Who is it? What's his name?
How about Pepperdine?
Oh.
I've unmuted all of you, by the way.
Oh.
Is Pepperdine here?
It's not who we just saw on camera.
Yes, it is. This is him.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here from Pepperdine.
How about Holy Names?
Yes,
Yay.
Holy Names is here.
Okay, I got everybody. You guys have had the best attendance.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to stop recording and say thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. Bye, everybody. Go get your-